A dad's trip to the village. Resident Evil 8 review.
Hey guys, Naito here, and after much time and thought, here is my super late review of Resident Evil 8 Village. Before we jump in, I must warn you guys again, this review will not shy away from spoilers. In fact, this review is for more of those who have actually finished the game and want to hear some other people's opinions. I do recommend this game, but it's not perfect. Let's jump on in. Taking place 3 years after 7, Ethan Winters and his wife Mia have now been relocated to Romania with the help of Chris Redfield. They now have a daughter named Rose, and suddenly Chris and his team attack the Winters household, kidnapping him and Rose and killing Mia. Then the transport is attacked and Rose is gone, and Ethan now must save her. The setup is super tropey, and it's well known that the parent-saving child trope is one of the most universal ways of motivating a player or a viewer. After this game carves out its own path and sinks into a more Resident Evil experience, I just have to say, Ethan is a fucking idiot.
Dead body? Wait, there's more. What the hell is wrong with this place?
Seriously, after the Baker incident, you'd think he would catch up onto these things a lot more quicker. Especially since it's been made out very early on that that incident is constantly on his mind. Yeah, the dialogue is pretty laughable at the start, but it doesn't matter too much as all the Romanian villagers who speak perfect English for some reason are killed very early on, leaving Ethan to only talk to people who are trying to kill him and... I guess that's it, other than the Duke. After that, the rest of the story ends up feeling pretty obvious. Areas followed by boss fight, rinse and repeat. This isn't too much of a complaint as RE7 was pretty much the same, but I feel that it was better paced in that game. Not to mention that by the mid-game, in my opinion, the game reached its peak. But I'll get into that later in the review. Now, I have a handful of complaints about the characters, and I have heard similar sentiments from others, so I'll keep it brief. I think the game should have handled its advertisement a bit differently. Other than the adorable puppet show that was more aimed towards Capcom's home territory, it felt like they were making out that Chris was going to be an antagonist and Lady D was going to be a much more longer-lasting threat. The game didn't go anywhere close in these directions. First, Lady Dimitrescu. Her appearance is brief in comparison to the full game. She's the first boss and will be gone for the first 2 hours. While it was a good idea to capitalize on the internet's blatant obsession of Lady D, they should have given time to the other lords and, Mother Miranda, the actual main threat of the whole game. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but Chris's actions didn't make any sense either. It would have made more sense if he told Ethan. His actions just... It made sense for an antagonist, but he's not the antagonist. In fact, he's actually trying to help Ethan. The reveal towards the late game is great, but in the grand scheme of the story, just doesn't make any sense. After everything is said and done, Chris just came off as a bit of a dick and being overtly secretive. And Mother Miranda could have had more of an omnipresent, as it felt like she just showed up a little bit at the start and at the end. Unlike the story that left me feeling a bit mixed, the graphic and sound design, more so the graphics, have been massively improved on, and this is more in line with the recent remakes that Capcom put out. The gore is awesome in this game, and the imagery is just so memorable. Locations are varying. You'll go from this cold, miserable village to a castle that feels cozy and unwelcoming at the same time, then to an unnerving residence near the lakeside, and finally an industrial factory. All of these locations were memorable, and the ambient sound design from 7 is present and it does its job fantastically. I can't really say much else. It's what you would expect from a major AAA studio like Capcom. It's pretty well known at this point that the horror in this game was unfortunately toned down due to many not buying 7 because they were put off by the horror. Which, I don't have to say this, but this was a poor decision. and calls back to the fact that Capcom expected 7 to sell something like 5 million copies on day one. Regardless of this, Village is selling a lot quicker, minus Japan, which I believe has more to do with Japan's stricter rating guidelines, which does sadden me. Despite this, the game is still super tense at times, and my heart was pounding with a lot of moments in this game. The gunplay feels great, and the more action-oriented focus is handled really well, not diving into complete RE8 levels of stupidity. I'm also obligated to talk about the Dollhouse section, where it seems like they put all of the pure horror moments into. But after that, the game does lose a bit of steam. By the time you defeat Donner, that's pretty much half the game done, and it never quite reaches that peak again. Castle, Dollhouse, then followed by Moreau's area, the lake, which I found to be the weakest. By the way, you also encounter Chris in this section, which would have also been another great moment to fill on Ethan on what the fuck is actually happening. This is then followed by the Lycandem, then Hisenberg's factory, and then the end of the game. While the Strum boss fight in the factory area was enjoyable, the rest dragged on a little bit. I really liked RE7 because the game turned tense horror into fun. One improvement in this game, however, is the variation of enemies. I found it to be a lot better, and it felt like there were more different enemies depending on which area you go to. From Lycans to these hooded fuckers and Heisenberg's soldats. It was a great improvement over the 2 or 3 versions of Molded from the 7th game. The map in the Village section was a bit incoherent, as block sections actually appeared open on the map, and then you would actually go to them and they would be blocked. And the actual way to traverse through the village was actually through houses, which left me feeling a bit lost in the village at times. I only died around 3 times, one of which was because it was too dark to see this crevice I was meant to hide in, and the other 2 were from the Hisenberg and Miranda fights. On standard difficulty, this just felt way too easy. The game only lasts around 8 hours, but that's because replayability is very high for this game, which I'm already beginning to go through again on hardcore. Some other things I wanted to talk about was the ending. Despite the story feeling a bit mixed here and there, I like how the Molded tied into Umbrella and the original games. The ending I found bittersweet, which was perfect. Fits in with the parent saving child trope. Mercenaries mode is back, and if you enjoyed the game's combat, this mode lets you experience more of it. The main reason why I took so long with this review was because I really wanted to get it right. I only played RE7 back in March, but already think it's one of my favorite games from the last generation. It still feels weird to compare these two because they seem a bit unique to each other in a way. However, despite having more negative feelings towards Village than 7, I would still go through it again, and I can easily recommend checking out both games because it's a great experience. While I was disappointed where some of the story went, I had a lot of fun, and I will have a lot more memories from this game. My final verdict is 7.8 out of 10. As time goes on, maybe VR being added with PlayStation's next generation of VR, and of course, I'm sure there's some DLC to come. At launch, you have a fun and memorable game that falls flat at times, with bonus content and replayability that will definitely make you come back, despite its flaws. Thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, consider liking, maybe subscribe if you want to see more. I'm always open to suggestions to help improve and grow the channel, and I'll see you guys when I travel through the multiverse in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart.